What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Three View. Today, we are joined by newly appointed Atlanta Capitals head coach Jeff Pyle. Welcome into the 3HL, and thank you so much for coming here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
So we'll kind of just kick things off here. So you have a long, history in the ECHL, and then you also played at Northern Michigan. What kind of drew you to this opportunity in Atlanta, and how excited are you to take the reins of this program?
Well, it came pretty quick. All of a sudden, the job opened, and I had a guy that knew Don Stone, the owner of the Capitals, and he called me and just said, "Hey, I think that there's a job just opened up that you'd be perfect for." And so I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" So he explained it to me, and then I reached out to Don and just said, "Hey, is it okay if I throw my resume in?" And because I'd been in Atlanta for so long, and he's in Atlanta, he knew me, so we talked a little bit, and within a couple of days, we had it all straightened out, and all of a sudden, I'm right here in the fire after 5 or 6 days now. It's been phone call after phone call, so it's been interesting.
I'm sure you've had quite the busy few days, that's for sure. And
Yeah,
and and oh,
it's
sorry,
never
go ahead.
ending. No, I was just going to say it's never ending with the recruiting and everything like that. So it's part of the game, but that's why we do it.
And going off of recruiting, the Atlanta Capitals are moving, to the newly formed Southeast Division. So your travel is going to be much more manageable. What kind of impacts do you see, in the day-to-day performance, recruitment, and development, with that easier travel schedule?
Well, it's nicer for a lot of ways, recruiting wise, like to be on the bus for some of the trips they had last year. I talked to some of the guys about it, and it's pretty tough, from a standpoint of being on the bus that long, trying to, fit your meals in at the right time and then playing 3 and 3 is pretty tough. So it's a lot nicer when we have, some of those weekends where we're resting, we may have a shorter trip, so that when we do have a longer one, it doesn't take as much toll.
Right, absolutely. And then as we kind of look forward to the roster that you're going to be building for this upcoming season, how are you able to manage the culture, doing a complete reset as your team looks to bounce back and have, a much more successful future?
Well, no matter where I've coached, I've always kind of done the same thing. I want to create a situation where guys want to come to the rink early. They want to be around the arena. They're excited about what we're doing. Um, I'm not a crack the whip type guy. That's what I've told the guys too. I want to help them. I want to make sure that they're learning, that they're going to get an experience that maybe I had by if we can get them into a college somewhere or, into the USHL or move them up wherever they want to go. I mean, that's why they're here. I don't want to bury them here. I want to make sure that we're moving them on.
And when you look at development, what do you think is the biggest piece to help players in terms of development and get them to that next level, like you talked about?
I think it's details. Everybody talks about skill, skill, skill. I've seen skill probably take more kids out of hockey than bring it in. I mean, if you can have good reads, if you're good defensively, if you know when to take risks and not to take risks, and that's what I do. I evaluate my team, I figure out who we are, and then I make my systems based on that.
And with you having such a successful career, in pro and at the Division 1 level, what are some of the standards that you're looking to bring into this program, whether that's preparation, day-to-day routine, anything like that?
Well, I think the biggest thing is I want to be the hardest working team. That's the way I've always told my guys. We're going to be the hardest working. We're going to be disciplined. We're going to play the game the right way. Again, we're going to make good decisions. I told the guys I'm going to be teaching you things that maybe you have heard, maybe you haven't heard, but we're going to be a patient team that works really hard and grinds it out. A lot of teams hate playing that game, so they get frustrated. Then they open up, and then we'll counter them. And the bottom line is, if you got a good group of guys and I want to make them good people. I want to make sure that they're enjoying themselves. Then that creates the atmosphere where you can, maybe you start with a couple wins and then all of a sudden it starts to roll that way. And it's pretty powerful when you get everybody buying in. So that's really the way I've always done it. And that's the way I'll do it here. If we're working hard and we're buying in, good things will happen.
And like you said, you want all these players to buy into not only your system, but then just the Capitals, program as a whole. How do you get these players to buy in, knowing that the team has struggled a little bit in the past few years?
Well, I think that's a motivational thing too now because now you want to win. You want to make sure that we turn this around, and it's a commitment. They have to understand that it's not just, you come, just I'll turn it on when I get to the rink type thing. It's when you're in the community, you're a good person, you're representing the Capitals. When you're around the arena, you're representing it. So the main thing is getting them to understand that it's a commitment 100% uh, to yourself, to your family, to the organization. And in the end, when you buy in and you're committed to it, it turns into, I always say it's not really a hockey lesson, it's a life lesson.
Hmm.
If you start changing things and it goes good and everybody's working hard, and this is a good league, you got a lot of good coaches in here, a lot of younger guys that have been involved in this. And so I'm kind of the older guy that's in the learning lesson. But the bottom line, if you work hard enough, I think it's life changing. And that's what I try to tell these kids. If you want to change your life, if you want to make something happen, you got to work for it.
I love that. That's awesome. And as we wrap things up here in this interview, what are some of the goals that you have for not only yourself, but your team in 2025? And what does a successful season look like for you this upcoming year?
My goals are to learn the league, learn what's going on, the recruiting stuff. There's a lot. Again, I'm the guy that is kind of a rookie at this, and so for me, it's make sure that I'm learning and doing what I have to do to help these kids, and then I want them to be successful. In the end, as a coach, there's nothing better than after a game, seeing the smiles on their faces when they're coming back into the locker room, seeing them grow as people, as players, and I want to help them down the line. So for us, a successful season is just turning it around and being more competitive and making sure that we're committed to what we have to do. We know it's going to be tough and we're going to have to work hard because there's a lot of good teams out there. But in the end, like I said, you got to earn it. You really have to earn it. Nothing comes easy. So if we take that mentality, I think we'll be fine.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for hopping on this call. It sounds like you have big plans ahead in Atlanta, and good luck this upcoming year.
Thank you so much for your time. And again, I'm excited about this and thanks for having me on.